of disinfectant.
Hi, you're watching Snowboard Review TV, supported by Voile Optics. This summer I set to work building a split board. So first I bought the Voile Split Decision Kit, which is about $150, and I also bought the Skin Kit, which is $150 also, so it's $300 outlay for that. Then I had to choose a board, and I managed to get hold of an option 3 Plus 174. You also need quite a lot of additional things when you're making the split kit. You need a lot of tools. Circular saw with a carbide tip blade, drill bits, countersink, wood paddle here. We've also got a load of clamps, hacksaw to cut the ends, and a good solid workbench as well. You need one of those and plenty of space. You also need a load of sundries, so you need things like epoxy, you need things like sandpaper, you need clamps, you need straight wooden battens to cut straight lines. So even though you think, right, I've got my snowboard, I've got my kit, I've got my skins, if you haven't got anything else, and this can be a really expensive project to do, if you do on the other hand have the tools, then you're talking about £80, so about $100 to buy all the additional things that you need to make the split board. There are a couple of issues with working in Europe on this project, because a lot of the measurements for the holes that you have to drill, so the drill bits and the wood paddles, are imperial, and obviously in Europe you're using metric. So my advice is that if you can get the tools, get the drill bits to the US measurements, to imperial measurements, then you'll have absolutely no problems. Whereas if you have to kind of convert across to metric, it is possible, but at the same time it does make things a lot less easy, because you have to do a fair bit more sanding, and that was the position that I was in, and it took me a little bit of extra time. A couple of tips for you: when I was putting in the T-bolts, it doesn't specify how deep you need to go with the wood paddle to set the T-bolt in perfectly, so that you can get the P-Tex disc on top almost flush with the base. So if you go in about between 1 and 2 mils just beyond the glass layer, so that you start getting the wood, and then you can see a very slight kind of rim of wood, and then you've got the base and the glass, then that will be perfect. Another thing to look out for is when you're doing the initial cut, which is actually pretty nerve-wracking. You need to just check that the jig that you've made, so the jig to align the saw along the cut, and also the guide on the saw, just make sure that all the bolts are tight, that all your clamps are tight, because slightest bit of movement and you're going to get an imperfect cut. And that's exactly what happened with us. I managed to recover it, but it's not perfect, so to avoid a headache, just make sure that everything is tight. Choose the dimensions of your board conservatively and try and match it to the type of riding you're going to do. From what I've heard, when you're touring, the weight on your feet is the equivalent to 5 times that weight on your back. So I've gone all out, and I've got a 174 option 3 Plus, which is an absolute gun, but it does mean that I'm carrying a huge amount of weight on my feet, which is going to be hard work when touring. I think it's a pretty fun project to do. It took me about 7 days, so it's not something you can just kind of do overnight, because you've obviously got lots of time waiting between glues curing and varnishes setting and that kind of stuff, so it's a bit time consuming. I think this probably suits someone who has all the tools available to them, has a family member who's got them, but if you've got to buy all the tools outright, and you've got to buy all the sundries, and you don't have a board available to split, then this could be a very expensive project, in which case I would advise just go and buy yourself a board that's already split. You don't need to be particularly good with the tools to do this project. It's really straightforward and the instructions are really good. So I wouldn't fear if you do have the stuff and you're just a little bit wary. I wouldn't split a new board. First time you do this, it's not going to be perfect, and I couldn't imagine how I would have felt if the way that I cut the option had been on a brand new board. So honestly, just for your first time, just split an old board or buy a second-hand board.